There's a name for the experience of watching 40 tutorials, understanding every single one of them, and still showing up to work the same way. It isn't a learning problem. It isn't a discipline problem. It's called the implementation gap, and it was built into the content, not into you. That reframe is what this video is about. Not, here are more tools to try. Not, here's the mindset you've been missing. A precise explanation of what has actually been happening, and one specific thing you can do differently this week. By the end of this video, you won't just feel less alone in this. You'll understand the mechanism, and that changes everything. Here's what the internal monologue usually sounds like. I watched the tutorial. I understood it. I even took notes. And then I opened my actual work and did it exactly the way I've always done it. That experience, repeated enough times, produces a conclusion. And the conclusion is, I am the problem, not the content, not the tools, not the ecosystem. Me. Maybe it takes too long to learn new things. Maybe the people who are adapting have a technical background, or more time, or a different kind of brain. Maybe the window has already closed and everyone else got through it before you arrived. That conclusion feels logical because it fits the evidence. Tried it, understood it, didn't change. Therefore, something is wrong with me. But there's a problem with that conclusion. It assumes the content was designed to change how you work. It wasn't. Research on professional skill development has consistently shown what practitioners have known for decades. Understanding something and being able to deploy it inside a live workflow are two completely separate cognitive tasks. They require different kinds of learning, different contexts, different inputs. One does not automatically produce the other. The knowing-doing gap, the space between I understand this and I actually do this differently, is one of the most documented phenomena in organizational learning. It isn't a personal quirk. It is the default. So before going any further, that conclusion you've been carrying, the one that says you're the reason this hasn't worked, it was based on incomplete information. Not because the difficulty isn't real. It is. But because the explanation was wrong. That's not a personal failure. That's a structural one. Now let's look at what's actually been happening this whole time. Here's what the AI content ecosystem was actually built to do. It was built to demonstrate, to show what a tool can produce, how fast it works, what the output looks like, what's possible in a 60-second screen recording. That content has a specific job. It answers the question, what can this do? And it does that job well. But that is a completely different question from the one you actually need answered. The question you need answered is, how does this fit into the specific way I work? With my clients, my deliverables, my deadlines, my team, my Tuesday afternoon. No tutorial was built to answer that. Not because the people making them don't care, because answering it requires knowing your workflow, your job title, your specific tasks, the tools you already use, the constraints you're actually working inside. A demonstration built for anyone cannot answer a question that belongs to someone specific. And you are specific. This is the architectural mismatch at the center of the implementation gap. The content was designed for awareness. You needed integration. Those are different products. You were trying to use one to get the job done by the other, and wondering why it kept failing. Studies on transfer-appropriate processing, the research on how skills move from learning contexts into performance contexts, show the same thing repeatedly. Skills learned in one context transfer poorly to different contexts unless the learning is explicitly anchored to that second context from the start. The tutorial shows you the tool in the tutorial's context. Your brain has no automatic bridge to your context. That bridge has to be built deliberately. And here is the thing nobody says about this. The more experienced you are, the harder that bridge is to improvise. Not because experience makes you less adaptable, because you already have a workflow, a real one, built over years. It works. You trust it. And dropping a new behavior into a functioning professional system without a specific integration point is genuinely harder than it looks in the demo. That's not weakness. That's complexity. And the content was never designed to account for it. So here's what's actually true. The content you consumed was doing exactly what it was built to do. It demonstrated capability, it showed what was possible, it kept you informed. It just wasn't built to change how you work. That's not a criticism of the content. It's a description of what it is. And when you understand what it is, you stop expecting it to do what it was never designed to do. Which means the past 2 years of tutorials, prompt lists, and courses weren't wasted. They gave you something real, a working awareness of what exists. That awareness is the foundation. What it was missing was the integration layer, The profession-specific bridge between, I know this tool exists, and I use it differently on Thursday. No! Here's the reframe that matters most. And this is the one worth sitting with. Your existing expertise is not the obstacle to integration. It is the integration surface. The years you spent developing judgment in your field, learning what good work looks like, what clients actually need, what separates a passable output from a genuinely useful one. That expertise is what makes profession-specific AI use possible in the first place. The tools can generate output. They cannot generate the judgment that knows when the output is right. They cannot replicate the professional experience that distinguishes the version that works from the 17 versions that almost work. That's not a consolation. That's a mechanism. The combination of your craft and the tools produces something the tools alone cannot, but only if the integration is built on your workflow, not on someone else's demonstration. Your expertise is the foundation, not the problem. This is what that actually means. Not as a slogan, but as a structural description of why profession-specific integration works when generic adoption doesn't. The self-blame loop was running on the wrong diagnosis. You weren't failing to learn. You were trying to integrate content that wasn't built for integration. And now that you can see the distinction, you can do something different. If what you just heard named something you've been carrying for a while, there's a resource in the description built specifically for this moment. It's a 7-day integration starter, 15 minutes a day, built around your actual workflow, not a generic demonstration. By the end of it, you'll have changed one real work task, not as a concept, as personal proof that integration is possible for you specifically. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Here's where this gets concrete. Because a reframe without a first move is still just content. And the goal here is not to give you more to think about. It's to give you one thing to do differently this week. Not explore AI tools. Not spend the weekend learning prompting. One contained, specific integration point. Something small enough to actually try. Visible enough to know whether it worked. Here's what that looks like in practice. Pick one task you do every week. One recurring output. A report, an email, a brief, a summary, a first draft of something. Not your most important task. Not the one where failure would matter most, the one that's slightly tedious. The one you could do in your sleep. The one that takes longer than it should and produces something fine. That task is your integration point. Not because it's the most transformative place to start, because it's the lowest risk place to build the bridge. You already know what good looks like in that task. You have years of judgment about it, which means you can evaluate the output. You'll know immediately whether it's useful or whether it needs work. That judgment is the thing the tutorial never had access to. This week, take that task and run it once with an AI tool alongside your normal process. Not instead of your normal process. Alongside it. See what it produces. Use your judgment to evaluate it. Adjust. Discard what doesn't work. Keep what does. That's it. That's the first move. It won't change your workflow overnight, but it will do something more important than that. It will give you personal evidence, not tutorial evidence, not someone else's screen recording. That integration is possible for you, in your work, on a real task. And that evidence is what the past 2 years of tutorials couldn't give you, because it has to come from your own Tuesday morning. Not from someone else's. The implementation gap doesn't close through more awareness. It closes through one small, specific act of integration. And then another. And then another. That's how this actually works. If you want a structured path through that process, 7 days, one task, 15 minutes, the implementation reset in the description is built exactly for this. It's the integration layer the tutorials were missing. Link is in the description and pinned below. What was the moment you realized the problem wasn't the tools, and what shifted when you saw it that way? Here's where things stand at the end of this video. You came in carrying a conclusion that the reason AI hasn't changed how you work is something about you. Your adaptability. Your pace, your capacity for this particular transition. That conclusion was running on the wrong explanation. The content ecosystem was built to demonstrate capability to a general audience. You needed something built to integrate capability into a specific workflow. Those are different things, and the gap between them is structural, not personal. A year from now, there will be professionals in your field who look back on this period and describe it as the moment they stopped blaming themselves and started building something real. They won't be people who found a better tutorial. They'll be people who found the right integration path, the one that started from their actual work, their actual expertise, their actual Tuesday morning, and followed it. Those aren't exceptional people. They're people who understood the mechanism and took the first move at a specific, concrete point, rather than waiting to feel ready. You now understand the mechanism. The content wasn't built for you, but your next step can be. What you do with that is yours.